and welcome to another episode of Smart People Travel Wise, a platform where we talk all things about travel. I'm your host, Tennie Sumague, coming to you from the Big Apple, my hometown of New York City, concrete jungle where dreams are made of, because if you can make it here, you really can make it anywhere. We have a great episode as we're going to discuss all things about a big state called Texas. They say all things are big in Texas, and that should also include your travel bucket list. But before I introduce my guest today, I like to remind everybody, if you are watching this live, please hashtag live. If you are watching this on replay, hashtag replay. Make sure you tell us where you're coming from so we can acknowledge all of you. Don't forget to like us on Facebook and YouTube. You could also listen on Amazon Fire, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, or simply just download the PHLV radio app available on all iOS and Android phones. So it's Travel Tuesday, and I'm going to do something a little bit that I'm probably going to do every Tuesday before I introduce my guests, travel news in a minute. And I'm going to give myself 1 minute to share all of you some great travel news that is circulating around the industry. Now, you know that I'm from New York, and what is New York known for? Other than it's the Big Apple, hot dogs, pizza. Well, they're known for Broadway. And what the longest running Broadway show is coming to a close in February. Phantom of the Opera, which has been running for almost 35 years, will be closing with its last show due to set on stage February 18th. It will commemorate its 35th anniversary on January 26th of next year. So if you're planning to come to New York and watch a Broadway show, I do highly recommend that you try to catch Phantom of the Opera, which was actually one of the first Broadway shows that I've watched, which was back in 1994. Speaking of rail travel, Amtrak, for those who like to travel domestically by rail, and it's a great time to do this, especially in the fall. If you're from the East Coast, one of my favorite rail travels on my bucket list is to go to Vermont. Now, Amtrak is set to resume its rail services after a labor strike, which has presumed. And lastly, for those whose bucket list travel is New Zealand, Air New Zealand has launched its first direct nonstop flight from Auckland to New York's JFK, making it one of the longest flights in the world, about 17 hours to go from Auckland to New York's JFK, which is a good thing for all Kiwis and all Big Apple travelers. If that's on your bucket list to go to North Island, South Island, there's not a direct flight out from Auckland to New York. Now we're going to get to our today's episode. They say all things are big in Texas, and so should your travel list or travel bucket list. And I'd like to introduce you to a friend who is actually from Texas and who's done all things in Texas. And she's going to share to us what we should do if we're ever in the Lone Star State. So she's also an editor for the newspaper Crossroads, based in Corpus Christi, Texas, and she's also a lead producer for Eagle Broadcasting Corporation, a media outlet that is based in Quezon City, Philippines. She's done a bunch of cool and creative news pieces that, from culture to you name it, she's done it. She's been in the media industry for far too long, and I'd like to introduce her again. And please smash those heart buttons as I welcome back Jane Kathleen Alvarez-Gregorio. Hey, Jane, or I should say Kathleen, I call you.
Howdy, Tennie. Howdy from the Lone Star State.
Howdy. And Texas has actually, I've never been to Texas except, the airport, Dallas, a layover in Dallas. And it's on I have this list called 50 states before 50. And, Texas is one of them. So we're going to start for, where should we start if we wanted to go to the Lone Star State? Should we start from the capital of Texas, which is?
Well, the capital is Austin, but normally flights are cheaper if you fly into Houston or Dallas, Fort Worth. Those tend to be cheaper just because they're like major hubs. But like a little, maybe not as cheap, but maybe pretty reasonable still, maybe flying into San Antonio or Austin. But I think since we're talking about where to fly in, and I've limited. So Tennie, there is just way too many things to explore in Texas. So just to kind of stay focused and stay within
it's the second or third largest state in the United States. I'm going to say second. Yes.
So geographically, Texas is the second largest state in the United States. I think we're beat by Alaska, but we have more population than Alaska, and California would be would be right after us, but their population is I think probably a bit more. But Texas has its wide open spaces. So to kind of, speaking of wide open spaces, we're gonna kind of limit our focus for now, just for now, because we can always talk about it in a future podcast. Tennie, I'm gonna limit it to my top 10 places to visit in Texas. If you only have a limited time, you don't have time to like go sprawling all over the Lone Star State. So I pretty much hit just the three, maybe a couple of other cities, but the three major cities, which is Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, with a strong concentration in San Antonio, because San Antonio seems to have the more, in terms of history and touristy, and plus because I'm from there originally, so I'm kind of biased. And I know some people listening to this might have their own versions of the Texas bucket list. So this is my personal recommendations, just disclaimer.
I'll start with San Antonio because not only it's the home of the Spurs, but it's also home of, I think two of the most popular tourist attractions, which is the Riverwalk and the Alamo. So let's go back to for those history lovers, and we're going to talk about, share with us, okay, what's special about, we'll start with the Alamo.
Okay, so the Alamo, they call it the birthplace of Texas history because of the famous Battle of the Alamo, which eventually led Texas from being occupied by Mexico to eventually becoming its own state and being part of the United States. So the Alamo is a monument dedicated to the Alamo defenders. There was like about less than 200 of them that were up against the 2,000 or 3,000 Mexican soldiers. So that is, it's considered a shrine. It's considered a monument, a sacred place, a hallowed ground. So the Alamo is like is the most important monument in the state of Texas. So I would say if you're gonna go to San Antonio, there are three major landmarks that you could visit that are within each other. So number one on our bucket list is the Alamo, because it is historical. I would suggest going there a little bit earlier, probably maybe it's open from morning till like about 5 p.m. That's when it closes. I have to confirm on the website what time it opens, but usually like if you start off in the mid-afternoon or morning, you can probably go ahead and catch not only like the tour of the inside of the Alamo building itself, the monument, the shrine, but you can also see sometimes the reenactments of the battles. There are certain days where they will demonstrate what the cannons were like back in the day. There will be reenactments of the soldiers fighting, and it's actually very entertaining. They actually show what some of the muskets and the weapons that were used back in the day, or back in during those times. And also there is a film that was from the History Channel, but it's usually aired like every 20 minutes round the clock. And if you're able to catch that film, you can just see like a visual history of what why the Alamo was so crucial in the history of Texas. So I would say go there. You could even go there like mid-afternoon, just so that way you have enough time to explore before it closes at 5. So after you go there, check out the inside of the museum, and also I would recommend watching the movie first, because they have a short film documentary that's playing. I would suggest watch that first so you can kind of understand why things are important, and then go through the museum, and then afterwards I'll explore the grounds. There's a beautiful garden area surrounding the Alamo. And there is one tree, it looks like a forest, but it's actually just one tree. It's called a live oak, and it's like really, really, really ancient. It's hundreds of years old, but it's like um, it's just one tree, but it doesn't feel like it, because all of the branches like curve to the ground. You can actually like see it occupies like a huge amount of space. So that's pretty impressive, that ancient live oak tree that's on the grounds of the Alamo. Then from there, from the Alamo, you can actually walk a few steps, maybe to the River Center Mall, which is just probably just like 3 blocks down, because the River Center Mall will lead you to the basement floor, which actually opens up into the Riverwalk. So from there, you can actually catch a riverboat ride. It's a guided tour, about 20 minutes, because underneath the city of San Antonio is kind of like an underground river canal, similar to what you would see in Venice with the boats and the gondolas. But these boat rides have like usually like a comedian or somebody who is presenting the history of San Antonio, how it was built. And while you're enjoying a 20-minute ride, relaxing with your friends, or maybe with that significant other. And whether it's during the daytime or during at night with the lights, and even during the holidays with all the holiday lights covering all of the trees, it's very romantic atmosphere, and it's a draw, definitely one of the top things to do when you're in Texas or in San Antonio. And then you could follow that up with a romantic dinner date at the Tower of Americas. Now, the Tower of Americas is a freestanding structure similar to the Space Needle in Seattle, I believe. And it is there's 3 levels. There's at the very, very top, you take an elevator ride, which you can actually see everything out of the glass wall while you're going up the elevator. So if you're afraid of heights, you can just turn your back and close your eyes. And there is a observation deck. There's a lounge cocktail area, and there's a restaurant. You can have dinner at the restaurant, and you just have these spectacular 360-degree views, and the restaurant rotates around like every so often. So you can actually, while sitting there, you can actually make it full circle. And then afterwards, you can go down to the observation deck and just walk around and feel the wind from of course, there's guard railings, so you're not gonna fall off the tower. So you can actually see not only the views, but feel the wind from outside, and it can get pretty windy, but beautiful views of downtown San Antonio and the surrounding areas. So that would be my top 3 places to go when you're in San Antonio. Next, though,
question before we move on to the thing. But would you say the way you're describing San Antonio, is it more I would say romantic or nicer? Is it more of a night city or day city? Because I always say New York City, if you're ever in Times Square, I always tell people you got to go at night, because the bright lights, big city, it just has this amazing vibe in comparison if you were to go there in the daytime. Does San Antonio have that kind of, you've been to New York recently, would you say is the vibe, is the vibe different in San Antonio during the nighttime in comparison to the day?
I believe so. Yes, actually, I've been to New York and I loved your city. And I would say that San Antonio is great both during the daytime and at night. During the daytime, you see all the colors of fiesta because it used to be part of, old Mexico, so you still have that festive, vibrant culture surrounding the city. So you see all the bright colors, you see like the historical details of the architecture, which is hundreds of years old. You're like in a big city, but with a lot of ancient like very early types of European style architecture. So you can see all the details. But at night, especially in the Riverwalk or in the Tower of Americas, you see the bright lights of the city and you have that more romantic feel. So I would say daytime, maybe it's great for like families. And then nighttime is, like a romantic atmosphere for the boat ride or the dinner date at the Tower of Americas. I recently went on a birthday dinner for my dad on his 75th birthday at the Tower of Americas, and my brother reserved it, and he picked the perfect time because he booked us right at sunset. So we saw the transition sitting on top, overlooking the entire city. We saw the transition from sunset all the way to dusk and twilight all the way till the night, and that was just incredibly beautiful.
Okay, let's go to your second choice of city in Texas, and that is?
Okay, so my I actually that actually knocked out 3 of my bucket list places to go. So that was the Alamo, the Riverwalk, and the Tower of America. So I left some a little bit for Houston and Dallas. So let's go next to Houston. So
All right.
if Houston is such a big city and it is almost comparable. I know Houston people might hate me for saying this, but this is my own comparison. I feel like in a way it's kind of like the LA of Texas because it is very multicultural. It is very huge and sprawling. It has like a huge population and so many food choices to eat, whether Middle Eastern, there's a Chinatown, there's of course your traditional barbecue, there's lots of Tex-Mex restaurants. So Houston it's like, for me, it's like the LA of Texas.
It is the largest city in the state too. So, it has to have that cosmopolitan flair, that life, which you're not used to because you're originally from San Antonio and, you're always going to be biased to where you're from, right?
That is so true. Like for me, I would go to Houston because it has such a diverse assortment of food places. But if we're going to talk about bucket list and a place you should definitely visit before, you should actually, well, I mean, in my opinion, probably the most important landmark to visit in Houston would be the NASA or the Johnson Space Center, because in Houston, that's where you actually have NASA and it's the museum. The Johnson Space Center, the last time I went there a few years ago, I was actually quite impressed. They did make it family friendly, like there's rides, there's 4D theater, but one of the interesting tours was we take a tram ride from the Johnson Space Center into the actual mission control, which is like further down. We actually take a look at where the scientists and the people from NASA actually work. And we got a chance to go into mission control and actually meet one of the original astronauts that was present. He was a lot older, retired, and he shared to us some of his adventures and his experience. And we got a chance to see like the workings, behind mission control, and also this area that is like the training ground for the astronauts. So it was quite interesting. It was, if you're into education with a little bit of fun, NASA is a historical place to visit. And there's even a chance for you to go inside one of the space shuttles. They actually converted one of the space shuttles into a tourist spot, so you can actually go in and see what it looks like inside. and so NASA would be definitely one. Should I move on to the next one?
Oh, does Houston have a problem?
It doesn't have a problem, but I think we should actually make a separate bucket list just for Houston itself, because there's just so many things to do that this top 10 of Texas just won't cover it. So I figured maybe that will be a future, we can explore Houston more thoroughly in the future. But for now, we're zipping through Texas, so that we had just completed our 4th item on the list. But I wanted to make mention though, okay, item number 5th, although it's not necessarily a destination, the 5th bucket list to do in Texas is barbecue. Okay, and I've actually named here 3 barbecue places that you can visit that are accessible for the most part. One of them, Tennie, is, do you like barbecue, by the way, Tennie?
Oh, do I love barbecue? I love all kinds of barbecue. Anything that's on the grill, I love. It's you know, if I do get married, I do want like a barbecue. I want a barbecue themed reception.
A barbecue themed reception. Well, you know, if you get married in Texas, that will probably be a very viable option.
It could be either barbecue or pasta and pizza or sushi. Well, you know, it could be international flair, because who doesn't love food?
Yeah, maybe you should have your reception at Golden Corral, since they have all the different items.
Oh no.
I'm just kidding. Yeah, but speaking of barbecue, on that note, okay, so Texas, you can't do Texas without barbecue. Okay, so Texas barbecue. Here's the thing, there are many barbecue places in each city that each city boasts is their special barbecue place.
And but I want to add that, Kat, because yeah, every barbecue has its own personality. Like Kansas and Memphis and North Carolina. Like the one that I love is North Carolina barbecue because of the vinegar. I love vinegar, the whole vinegar-ish taste. And but what is true Texas barbecue? And I'm not talking about the only kind of Texas barbecue I had is Dallas BBQs, but that's kind of like, you know, it's like having, I don't know, what'd you say, pasta in Olive Garden?
not to talk down about Olive Garden, which is really delicious too. But yes, I know what you mean. Okay, so Texas barbecue, what makes it different from other barbecue places around America is the dry rub. We usually use like a lot of rub in the meat, so that way when it's grilling or smoking or what have you, like you can really taste the flavor directly on the meat without having to cover it up with barbecue sauce. So the dry rub is the trademark and what makes Texas barbecue its own unique character. And the best, they say here, when you ask people from Texas, where is the best barbecue? They're gonna tell you in your own backyard. Like, because people here, they know how to smoke. I mean, in terms of smoking brisket, smoking meat, they have their equipment. My husband got into the barbecue scene when we bought our house, and we could actually have a smoker. So that's his favorite thing to do. He smokes brisket. That's everyone loves his brisket. So but basically that's usually the best barbecue, is the one you can make at your home. But in lieu of that, I have some top 3 places that I recommended for barbecue. So if you are just, you know, caught in a layover in a city, or you're just there for like a few days, well, a go-to place that is available at almost every Texas city is Rudy's Barbecue. Now, Rudy's Barbecue, the nickname is it's the worst barbecue in Texas, but that's actually just an ironic joke because it's actually very popular. Rudy's is renowned for its brisket. You can either order the moist or the lean. The lean that has less fat, a little bit drier. The moist, you know, has all the fat and it's really, really moist and juicy. What I like to do is I like to order a mix of both, so that way you have that balance. But one thing they're also infamous for is their creamed corn. Rudy's creamed corn is like, people from California and Hawaii and New York who have been to Rudy's are always asking me like, oh, can you bring me back some creamed corn if ever I'm traveling to one of their destinations? And I'm like, I don't know how I can sneak that onto the plane, but we'll see. But yes.
Creamed corn, what is so special about it? Like, do you know what's in it? Is it like,
Well, the cream
The
corn, it's
secret?
like
Is it a secret
it's
sauce?
almost how can I describe it? It's basically like boiled corn, but they have a special ingredient that they put in it, which almost reminds me of condensed milk in a way, but I'm not quite sure if that's exactly what they put. But it's very buttery, it's sweet and savory, and just really like delicious. Like that, it's like most people I've encountered who've tried it for the first time, they're addicted to the cream corn. And that's what they're always looking for when they come to Texas is Rudy's brisket and the cream corn. But of course, Rudy's has other things like smoked turkey, ribs, country ribs, baby back ribs, sausage. So they have a lot of varieties of things and also different sides. But that's the top two things to order at Rudy's. If you have no time and you have to make a quick decision, the brisket and the cream corn. Now, I mentioned two other places because barbecue. Now, Rudy's can be found anywhere. Most major cities has it, and it's usually located in the back of a gas station. And it's kind of built to where it's a little bit crude, but that's for the effect because your plates, instead of getting actual plates, you get a slab of torn butcher paper, and then there's signs everywhere that says like we ain't your mama, so clean up after yourself. Funny signs like that, and they're usually paired up with gas stations. But another barbecue place that I wanted to mention is in Lockhart, Texas. Now, Lockhart is it's a small town, kind of in between Austin and Houston. And Lockhart is considered the barbecue capital of the world. So if you ever, barbecue capital of Texas or the United States. But if you ever go to, if you're looking for if you're a barbecue enthusiast and you really want to try, like some real good Texas barbecue, go to Lockhart. There are several establishments that you can try. Among them is Black's Barbecue. That's the place I visited. So it was really good. Now, another contender, and it's also been featured on a lot of food shows. It's based out of Austin, but it's called Franklin's Barbecue. I personally have never had it yet, but what I heard is that if you wanted to try Franklin's Barbecue, most of the time you'll have to stand in line at 4 o'clock in the morning in Austin and wait in that line until you get to place your order. But I think you can also call in the order 2 weeks in advance and then pick it up. And or you can even have it shipped to you, which they do now. So I heard. So those are the top 3 barbecue sources. Rudy's, which is readily available. Franklin's, which you would need to go to Austin and prepare in advance for that, or Black's Barbecue. Oh, sorry, Lockhart Barbecue. Barbecue in Lockhart, Texas. So those are the barbecue places on your bucket list or on my bucket list.
So that's Kat's top 3 barbecue places to see in Texas, because
sources, because we're talking about Texas in general. So any questions about barbecue?
I just want to eat some, that's all.
I know, I'm getting hungry. When is this podcast over? Just kidding. Okay,
so you should just also have your husband on and demonstrate what good Texas brisket is.
You're in luck because I actually took video of him. So you're gonna see that video clip. I'm sharing it with you now, so you can post it later for your audiences. So that's what Texas brisket at home looks like. So as you can see, he's slicing it, and it's it just melts at the tip of the knife.
You can put it here and see how delicious it looks. I mean, I'm not talking about your husband, but actually the brisket.
Well, he will be so flattered if he heard that.
Sorry, Doji. I mean, you are probably a delicious man, but we're more. I think our audience and myself are more fascinated with what brisket tastes like and how it's prepared. But we'll move on from barbecue, and we haven't discussed Dallas, and I'm not talking about the show.
So Dallas, you're right. Okay, so we're actually gonna combine the two, Dallas and Fort Worth. They're like a metroplex. They are two cities that are just so close to each other, and they have all these cool mid-cities in between and surrounding. So the Dallas-Fort Worth, that's what we call the DFW Metroplex. So we're gonna look at one landmark in Dallas and another landmark in Fort Worth. But before we go to that, I need to talk about Buc-ee's. So Buc-ee's is a famous truck stop or gas stop in Texas, and you can only find Buc-ee's not in the major cities, but en route to the other major cities. They're usually placed strategically, like, you know, in like on along the interstate, and so you'll have to like go out of your big city and get onto the road, and then you'll find a Buc-ee's somewhere in the small towns lying in between. So whether you're traveling from Houston to Dallas, Dallas to San Antonio to Austin, in that triangle across the state of Texas, there's bound to be a Buc-ee's there, and it's spelled Bucees, and it's trademarked by, or the logo is the famous cartoon beaver face. That's Buc-ee the beaver, and his statue is inside the store. And what is special about this truck stop? Well, not only is it like completely like Texan owned, Texas products, it's like a landmark in itself, or a tourist spot, because inside is all inside you can find a variety of Texas souvenirs and some rare, hard to find snacks, like that you can only find over there most of the time. So one of their famous things to buy for snacks on the road is the golden beaver nugget. Basically, it's like a candied corn puff, but it's really addicting. And it's like, it's both sweet and salty. And now they have come up with different flavors that are like, you could have like sea salt caramel, white cheddar, and also like spicy buffalo flavor. But the golden beaver nuggets are it's like you can only find that at Buc-ee's, and you can only find Buc-ee's when you're traveling by car to another big city. So that's one unique place. If you're walking around, let's say you're in Russia or Ukraine or in like in London or Italy, and you're wearing a Buc-ee's t-shirt, someone from Texas is gonna know you're from Texas, that you're one of them.
Wow. So it's that popular.
Well, it's that local. It's like
local, I should say, yeah.
It's extremely Texan. Like basically, it's a T-shirt with just the beaver face of Buc-ee, and that's how a Texan will recognize another Texan, apart from the orange University of Texas Longhorns t-shirt. So yeah, so Buc-ee's is definitely a place to go to when you're en route to the next major city. So now that we're en route to the next major city, we're gonna stop off in Dallas first. So Dallas, there are so many things Dallas is famous for, and they just have like a wide variety of eateries as well. Now, Dallas and Houston, you know, they're both major cities, but I guess if you had to isolate one specific place in Dallas, that would be definitely a place that you should visit that's very unique to Dallas. I would have to say, Tennie, it's going to be the JFK Memorial and the sixth floor Plaza Museum.
Because that's where I actually, if I ever hit Dallas, other than, you know, trying to find Luka Doncic at a Mavs game, that's probably one spot I'd like to see, is where JFK was assassinated. And from what I've seen in pictures, there's actually a marking. There's like an X where he was exactly assassinated. Is that correct?
There is, and not only that, there is what's called the Dealey Plaza Memorial, where they have not only marked off the grassy knoll where the assassination took place, but you know, it's also like a memorial honoring John F. Kennedy, and there's even I've seen that they even have like assassination tours where like from a walk from the sixth floor museum, you can actually take the tour, and the tour guide will show you and talk about you know, the place where it happened. And the sixth floor museum, it's actually very unique. It it has all these theories. It also has like mementos and artifacts from the things that happened during that event. And it's just really like a good wealth of resources if you are like into the JFK assassination and all of the stories, conspiracies, and everything behind it. It's like it's definitely a go-to place for that type of history.
Now, I want to mention something that is notably known in Texas is actually the parks, the national parks. And one of the popular national parks is the Big Bend National Park. Is that?
Oh, okay. So Big Bend. So when you think about the map of Texas, and I'm sure you can pull up the graphic, Big Bend now, so we're gonna deviate away from the Dallas Fort Worth area because Big Bend is way, 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 way out in the west part of Texas.
So it's further. Where exactly is it? Is it smack in the middle, south, west?
It's in the west. Do you know, if you look at the shape of Texas, the top part is like a panhandle, but then there's something that sticks out to the side. That's kind of like an elbow. It's like an arm. That is the bend that you see like underneath that section. That's the Big Bend area. So we will deviate away from the Dallas Fort Worth area and drop by Big Bend real quick. It's in the area where it's very mountainous, the towns are small, it's very remote from any major cities. And it's almost like in that deserty mountainous region of Texas. And that is the area where you really feel like, oh, wow, we're in Texas, because you have kind of that desert atmosphere, the mountains, the mesas, the plateaus. You kind of feel like how Texas was back when it was still a frontier. And Big Bend, there's Big Bend State Park and Big Bend National Park. My husband, him and his friends that love to mountain bike, they like to go to Big Bend because there just has a lot of trails. And there is actually a little town outside of Big Bend called Terlingua, and it is famous for the chili competition that happens annually. and Big Bend, there's like you could literally get lost there. It's very huge. It's a very expansive, and the park actually is just right along the border of Mexico too. So you're just right on that area that is just it leads into Mexico, and there are park rangers that are watching, and there's border patrol there, but there's like a small river that you can take. Like if they usually you can actually take like a boat ride down the Rio Grande River, and as long as you have your passport with you, you can actually go across to the border, and then there's like a small town on the other side of Mexico where you can enjoy like like a meal at a restaurant that's over there. But yes, Big Bend is national park, definitely. So we jumped ahead, so definitely a major place to go if you're up for an adventure. It should be on your bucket list, because that's the place where you really feel that line from the song, the stars at night are big and bright.
That's more for like the adventure travelers who want to steer away from the city life and just stargaze or camp or hike or mountain bike, as you mentioned. That's one of your husband's favorite hobbies. But we'll go back to the Dallas Fort Worth, because I feel like you haven't finished what else, that there's more to do.
I didn't. No, but that's okay. We'll fly back.
Cowboys there? I mean, I'm talking about real cowboys, not the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, okay. Speaking of cowboys, good segue, because yes, although we do have the Dallas Cowboys, who are world famous, we're gonna see some real cowboys, Tennie. If you just take like a 30-minute drive to the city of Fort Worth, the neighboring city, you're gonna find one of the oldest stockyards in the United States, which is called the Fort Worth Stockyards. And they every year they also put out a rodeo. But let me tell you about this place, why it's so special. Fort Worth, they call it Cowtown. That's the nickname of it. It's one of those, it's like so going from Dallas to Fort Worth, you're in Fort Worth because whenever you're driving through a neighborhood of houses, it's the only city I've been to where the houses randomly have a horse in the backyard. so it's just like, oh, there's a horse.
That where Hee Haw originated, just out of curiosity.
I didn't know if that's where it originated. I have to fact check that. But if you know something that I don't, maybe.
It's a random guess.
Oh, well, I wouldn't be surprised because
Howdy, I should say.
well, I mean, their nickname is Cowtown, and let me tell you why. Because when you go to the Fort Worth stockyards, you actually they have preserved how that area would look like, if we were still back in the Old West. And in fact, there are actually live working cowboys, real cowboys, decked out all in their cowboy hats and uniform on horses, like, that are there. They're just like a normal, that they're just part of the scenery. They're just there because every 2 times a day, like I think last time I was there was like 11 a.m. and 2:30 p.m. They have the Longhorn Cattle Run. Now the Longhorn cattle are those cows that have like the long curly horn, and they actually get steered like around the city, so onlookers, visitors can witness that for themselves and kind of get an idea of how that was like back in the day when Fort Worth Stockyard was, like one of the biggest area of processing cattle during that time, because cattle, that was like the big industry, and transporting them from like places like Kansas all the way to Fort Worth, sometimes by train, sometimes steering them, that was just a big thing. So leftovers from history, you can really feel like you're back in the Old West if you visit the Fort Worth stockyard. So definitely that is the place to go to in Fort Worth, and that would be an unforgettable experience for you. And you can really, Tennie, you can take a picture with a real cowboy.
Yeah,
or cowgirl.
Cowgirl. And I want to own, it's on my list of things that I want to own. I do want to own a nice pair of cowboy boots.
that place also, Fort Worth is a great place to purchase that pair, because all around you have these shops that cater to the Western wear. Well, pretty much all over Texas you do, but Fort Worth in particular, because they even have a great steakhouse, and they also have like a little shops and boutiques that cater to that, the idea of cowboy hats, boots, just the typical Western wear. So that's like one-stop shop for you.
I want to tap in because we're going to go back. I want to ask you, and going back to Dallas, and this is something big in Texas since 1886, which is the State Fair of Texas. Now, brush up on that because that is the longest running fair in the United States.
So the State Fair of Texas in Fair Park in Dallas, I know growing up as a kid, every year in around October, we would get a free ticket, like, because it's for all the students, we always get a free ticket to go to the State Fair. And the State Fair has the Star of Texas, which is this huge Ferris wheel. And you also have Big Tex. Big Tex is this huge cowboy statue that overlooks the city of Dallas. And he actually greets you, I believe. He's been set on fire a couple of times. I don't know the the history behind that, but I know that was something that happened. And then he was repaired and rebuilt. One of the things though that is very common in the State Fair is each year they have a new deep fried something. So there, it started off with deep fried Oreos, and you had deep fried Snickers. There was a time there was even deep fried Coke, and then they even had deep fried butter. And the State Fair, and the State Fair was one of the places that the original Fletcher's corn dog was introduced. So that is also a tradition at the Texas State Fair, is the corn dog. among other food things.
I know when you say deep fried butter, I'm just all I could do. It's like, oh my God, that's just like high in cholesterol. And, I think for anyone who has heart problems, that's not the place where you want to go.
Well, unless you are willing to live a little, and of course practice a healthy eating habit and diet. The rest of the other days of the year, and just splurge at the state fair. I believe it runs through the month of October, so definitely something to check out. Now, although that wasn't on this original top 10 bucket list, since you did bring it up, October is coming up, so definitely it's going to be state fair season.
What else is on this top 10 bucket list? I don't even know what number we're on, but I'm hoping that one of them has to do with music, and you are from Corpus Christi, and I can't, I didn't want to. I have to ask this question in the podcast. It was on my list of things to ask you is, the popular Tejana, I should say, singer is Selena. And
yes,
she is from my hometown. And I watched that movie. That movie made me cry. And just her story of how she was murdered is just sad. But that's, we can't we can't have the podcast without talking about Selena and how we're always dreaming of her. J-Lo.
Wow.
Jennifer Lopez, maybe.
Yeah. Well, Selena, like who could not fall in love with Selena? But so
I could fall in love. Fall in love.
Yeah. Yeah. So Selena, she is basically the music legend of Corpus Christi. So we now we're back in my hometown. Although I was gonna save this for like the bonus, since we're already here, we might as well talk about it. So Selena, Selena's, she actually originally came from Lake Jackson, Texas, which is in the Houston area, but majority of her years and when she became famous was spent here in Corpus Christi. And in fact, when you come here, there are several Selena tours that you can take part in. You can tour her museum. She does have there is a Selena museum that is operated by the Quintanilla family, and her sister, brother, father. And there's also Freddie Records, which is her label that she was producing music under. You can actually have a tour of the Freddie Records music studio, and the people there will share some stories about her and give you a tour of the studio. You can also visit the memorial, the Selena Memorial, which is facing the ocean. And there's like a life-size statue of her with a beautiful flower, a flower on the monument, and it has like an ongoing audio that plays 24/7, talking about a little bit about her life and also playing some of her music. And the monument is called the Mira de Flor Monument. It is facing the ocean and just very beautiful. One of the major auditoriums where they have concerts is called the Selena Auditorium, named after her. And there's also actually there is a mural in her neighborhood that was actually designed by a New York artist. So he's a fan of Selena, and he designed this beautiful mural that is actually on the side of an old convenience store in the Molina neighborhood where she grew up, or where she spent many of her days. So yes, those are the aspects of Selena that you can visit whenever you're here. And there's also her I guess at the cemetery, there's also her grave site where you can actually visit her tombstone and see where she was buried or laid to rest. So those are the things that you can visit when you're here in Corpus. Yes.
I love Selena, and I'm a little bit tired right now, but I would go on and start singing a line or two of Dreaming of You, which I hear pretty much every day on those light FM for you New Yorkers are listening. 106.7 is always playing "Dreaming of You."
Well, you should
That
also
was
listen to some of her Spanish songs.
It's one of those, it's like it's such a beautiful song. It's like "Twinkle Twinkle Little Star" for
Well, ironically, they found that song. They discovered it after, like, posthumously. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right. They discovered that song after her death.
Her death, yes, correct. That was one. I think that was one of the. It wasn't. They just found a recording or something. I know that was just something that that was one of her last recordings before she was assassinated.
Yes, and that's really, it's so sad. But she was so ahead of her time. Well, before the pandemic happened, there was actually an annual festival called the Fiesta de la Flor, which was a Selena Fest, basically. And you would have people coming here from all over the United States dressed up in the Selena costumes and, like some of them performing her dances. And there was like food trucks that were here. There was like, people, that are playing Tejano music, that are doing covers. It was a huge festival. They would block off like parts of downtown for a couple of days. But when the pandemic happened, they stopped it. So I'm not sure when they will offer it again. I hope they'll open it up again. And if that happens, that usually takes place around April. So I hope you get a chance to visit during that time, Tennie. Then you can really get your Selena fangirl in with all the other fans.
Now let's go more into what else is left in Texas that should be on that bucket, that ultimate Texas travel bucket list.
Okay, so I'm glad you asked that. So we actually have we have two more things to talk about.
And so talk about those two, let's say 5 minutes.
Okay, sure. Okay. All right. Since we're in Corpus Christi, okay, so this is a Corpus Christi product, but it is now not only all over Texas, it is nationwide now. Just like California has their In-N-Out burger, Texas boasts the Whataburger. So if you're here, you must try Whataburger. Although they probably will have it there in New York soon. I don't know.
How is that? Wata or Whataburger?
It's called it looks like What a Burger. But for some reason, the Texans, they call it Whataburger. Whataburger. and like the Whataburger, the burgers, the patties are like, you could get it single patty or double patty, but it's really thick and hearty and juicy. And you have like, a variety of different styles you can get it in. You can get like the original Whataburger, which just comes with the lettuce, tomato, mayo, mustard, the works. Then you also have like other things called the bacon mushroom Swiss burger. You can have like the Monterey melt, which kind of has bell peppers and grilled onions and pepper jack cheese. So there's like variety, and sometimes they come out with limited edition milkshakes. Like during this past summer, they came out with the banana pudding shake. It was so good. And then this fall, they're probably going to come out with the coffee shake. Winter, they come out with the chocolate mint shake. That is my favorite because it tastes like a York peppermint patty, but as an ice cream shake. Not too sweet. And they also have like peaches and cream shake. And then the top one, which a lot of people love, is the Dr. Pepper shake. Imagine, Tennie, if you had like a Dr. Pepper float as a milkshake.
I don't like Dr. Pepper, so I'm like,
okay, so you might not like that one, but that one is surprisingly delicious. So Whataburger has like its own, unique burgers, and of course its sides, and then it's shakes. So that's one thing that definitely someone visiting Texas who's never tried Whataburger, you should definitely try it. So that and it originated in Corpus Christi.
Proud roots from where you are, I mean, not originally from where you're
I'm living right now.
Living in Selena and Whataburger.
Selena and Whataburger, yes. Okay, and then the last, but not least, I had to make a decision because this was, a limited bucket list. But let's go to the capital of Texas, Austin. Now, Austin is the live music capital of Texas because we have, Austin City Limits, we have South by Southwest. But in this case, what I did is I put down the Texas State Capitol. Like, why? Well, because if you're already in Austin, if you go to the Texas State Capitol, you'll see like all the different, governors of Texas, all their portraits. You'll get a chance to see what the inside of Congress, the Texas Congress or legislature department looks like. You'll get a chance to see the beautiful grounds, and you're in the middle of downtown already. So you have access to like the food trucks on South Congress. If at sunset along the bridge, you can see the bats come out. You can also take advantage of the fact that University of Texas is there. You can watch a game. So so many things you can. There's 6th Street. 6th Street is like kind of like the party hub of the of downtown with all the college students there. So if you go to the Texas State Capitol, you're already going to be in the middle of downtown with access to everything that downtown Austin has to offer. So that wraps up my top 10 list. I don't even know if it was 10. I think I might have been 11 or 12, but that is the bucket list.
There's so much you can do in the Lone Star State. And I just want to also point out that Matthew McConaughey is a University of Texas alumni. And I do believe he is a professor, like a visiting professor in the film department at his alma mater. So I just wanted, for all you Matthew McConaughey fans, that's probably one reason you should visit Austin.
Or take a class.
Or take a class, yeah.
Sure, they're wildly popular.
For me, I do want to watch a college football game at the University of Texas, and also take note that also Kevin Durant played at University of Texas.
Oh yes, we had produced so many star athletes from the football department at UT. So, or many athletics department produced a lot of great athletes. Yes, thanks for pointing those out. One thing you mentioned about film, Texas has become a film-friendly state, and the governor has issued many cities to be officially film-friendly cities. So you won't be surprised to see that a lot of series, like for instance, like The Walking Dead or Fear the Walking Dead, are being shot in Texas, and a lot of Netflix specials. So yes, speaking of Texas and the film industry. So yes, so far that's our bucket list for now. We might have a part 2 next time.
Next time. But I do want to ask before one last question. I mean, is there a best time to go in Texas? What is your favorite time of the year in Texas, season-wise?
Season-wise, Tennie, I would tell you, come during April, because not only is that like kind of the anniversary of Texas Independence Day around that time, but that's when the bluebonnets are in season. Springtime is mild. You're not like suffering in the stifling heat. You're not being pelted with like the bitter cold of winter. But spring is just mild, and you have the bluebonnets that come out and bloom every April. And imagine just being in a sea of blue flowers and just being able to take a picture there or relax there. That the bluebonnet is the official Texas state flower. So if you're going to come on a particular season, why not choose that time? Because you'll have temperate weather and you'll have the beautiful bluebonnets. That's
great to know. Thank you, Kat, for coming on and educating us on why we should visit the Lone Star State. Hopefully our viewers will follow your bucket list itinerary, or maybe research more, because Texas is so huge. There's so much you could do, from city life to country life. And I didn't mention, I did want to ask you about this, El Paso. Oh, I'm just thinking of the taco. Old El Paso.
The taco shells. Well, El Paso, just to touch upon that briefly, it is at the very extreme west part of Texas. It is right there at the border of New Mexico, and Texas. So you have that tri-state area, and you also have, the city of Ciudad Juarez. Now, Juarez used to be like, I guess, a scary for all the drug situations back then. But now I've been to Ciudad Juarez several times, and I feel like they're making progress in terms of just, making it a more peaceful, family-friendly place. And El Paso is you because it's in the West Texas mountainous area, you really feel that you can see the bright stars. The stars at night shine bright in El Paso. But you got to be careful, because if you're coming from these major cities, in Texas, going to El Paso, there's a stretch of road that is 100 miles pure mountain desert with no civilization. So make sure your car is full of gas, make sure it's running good, because you would hate to be stranded there in the middle of the night with the coyotes with no civilization in sight. So they warn you there's 100-mile stretch of road that has no gas stations available. So
that's
so
good
just be prepared.
If you're ever traveling that route in Texas. Well, again, Kat, thanks for coming on. I hope to have you on again for another episode on part 2 of Texas, things to do in Texas, or we could brush up on we didn't brush up on a couple of cities like Galveston and other small cities that in the state. So part 2 or part 3 next time. We'll great to have you on again.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Tennie. And
And
howdy, everyone. Howdy to all your viewers.
Howdy. And howdy to everyone who is listening. And hopefully you've enjoyed this episode and learned more about the Lone Star State. And maybe it'll be on your bucket list, whether you go in the fall, winter, spring, or summer. Smart People Travel Wise airs every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 12 noon Pacific. I'm your host, Tennie Sumague. Catch you next time.
Just like a friend from back home. This is your Filipino radio experience in Las Vegas. PHLV Radio. PHLV Radio.